Hey, it's Honey Gregory again. Perpetual learning. Guess what? Are you dealing with health issues that you can't quite figure out what's going on and you're tired of the situation, maybe with your doctor or your insurance or your family members, and you're like at your wits' end, sick and tired of trying to figure this out? Well, maybe you need a health coach. So today, my guest is so amazing. She is a certified health coach. So, we're going to learn how to navigate some of those diseases and illnesses that we have that the doctor can't quite figure out what's going on, or maybe we're afraid to speak to our doctor about it, or our insurance won't cover it. So, stay tuned. We're going to learn a lot about our health and we're going to feel better. Hey, it's Honey Gregory again, and welcome to my channel, Perpetual. Let me start over that. Okay, we'll do this again. Hey, it's Honey Gregory, and welcome to my channel, Perpetual Learning, where we are always learning, because if you're not learning, you're dying. And I am so fortunate today to have this beautiful, amazing woman as my guest, Peilin Chiu. She is a certified, and I'm going to say this wrong, integrated nutrition health coach, something like that.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So, Palin, I met you in our NTI, and I've always been so impressed, especially after I heard your personal story. Because before you came to this country, you were an amazing woman in your own home country too. So, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself and tell me about your journey into becoming a health coach?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you, honey, for having me here today.
Yes.
I'm very honored to be here to sharing what I do. Who am I? I My name is Peilin Chiu. I am a Taiwanese.
I
So
keep saying
until I was 32 years old,
old. Yes,
when I
that's
moved
fine.
to Bloomington. When I
Yeah.
moved to Bloomington. And so I often think that Bloomington, the life in Bloomington is kind of a watershed of
Mm,
my life. Before Bloomington, I was just, very outgoing, healthy, and very cheerful, and very kind of a go, go, go kind of a girl in
mhm.
my career as a
Mm,
journalist.
yes.
And I did very well in those 10 years of reporting, but it was a very stressful career.
Mm,
And so when my husband took a teaching job at IU, that's the reason I came here.
mhm.
I suddenly found myself in a lot of physical challenges. I
Mm,
started getting all kinds of issues. I got sick, I got infection all the time, and
mm,
couldn't really find the reason for it. And then
mm,
a lot of doctor visits and a lot of prescription drugs, although
mm.
they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So I just, didn't like that.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
I
prescription
decided,
drugs make you feel worse because there's so many side effects.
well, especially they couldn't even find anything wrong with me, but they just kept, prescribing more meds for me. And that just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me
Yeah, because
logically.
they're practicing, and I tell this people all the time. They're guessing, and they're just trying a couple of things to see if something works.
Yeah. So turned out because of those years of a stressful career in Taiwan, my immune system was pretty beaten up.
Mm,
And I was just on top of that, because of all the new food and new culture, new
mhm.
life
Yeah.
in Bloomington, that eventually, to my body, that's a lot of things to adjust at the
Mhm,
same time. And then also because I was completely relaxed back then.
mhm,
I
mhm,
didn't have a job. I just came here. Um, I thought that I was enjoying the life. At the same time, all the
mhm,
physical issues came up or have been brought up for me.
mhm.
And so that's how I started healing myself, because like I said, the conventional route just didn't work. And I decided to take the healing into my own hands.
Smart.
And within just 2 months, just by changing the diet, adding
Yeah.
regular exercise, doing some fasting here and there, 90% of my symptoms were gone.
Isn't that
And I had
amazing? It's so
perfect,
amazing once you stop putting the poison in your body that your body knows what to do. It's suddenly just
exactly.
it knows what to do. It's like, oh, Now that those things are out of my way, I can attack and do the things I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what happened to me. So since then,
Mm-hmm.
I have never wavered on the power of food and
Mm-hmm.
natural healing modalities.
Mm-hmm.
But, fast forward, my daughter came along after I was healed. And but just 5 months into her life,
Mm-hmm.
she was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh no.
And yeah, so it obviously turned our world upside down.
Yeah, of course.
In order to help her, that really led me into a deeper pursuit of natural healing, because leukemia is such a fast progressing disease.
Mm-hmm.
And we only have a few months for her, so we couldn't resist, or we couldn't refuse to receive any conventional chemotherapy. But at the same time, I know how chemo could damage her
Yeah.
body at the same time. So I was trying to find all the resources to help her deal with the chemo, and hopefully at least she could have some better quality of life
Yeah.
as she went through the chemo.
Mm.
And so it kind of started the long journey since then. Unfortunately, eventually she passed away
Oh,
4 years later.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, but it was a really a self-healing journey, and also a self-discovery,
Yeah.
because after that I realized that, first of all, because of all those years of stress,
Mm-hmm.
right, in Taiwan, and then came here dealing with a very severe illness of a child,
Mm.
and eventually her passing, that just really took a toll on my body, and I was
Yes.
sick for
Yeah.
quite a few
The
years.
stress, the strain, the cortisol
Yeah,
levels
yeah,
peaking, and
that's the
emotional everything roller coaster. It'd be terrible.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that really brought me to another path as I try to heal myself. I kind of in the journey of trying to figure out where she went after life.
Mm.
I've discovered my true self. And I
Oh,
realized, oh, energy actually never dies.
no.
Although she's gone physically,
Yeah.
her spirit, her energy is always there
Right.
with. And then
Yes.
because of that, it kind of changed my way of looking at life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I started looking into myself. I like, hey, who is me? Who am I? Who am I? Why am I going through this journey? And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that there's a lesson behind it.
And it's beautiful that you say that, because myself and everybody, nearly everybody I meet, it seems like they are they reach a certain point in their life where they're like being retrospective on what happened to them and why, and what they're supposed to do with that information and the knowledge that they've learned. And I think that's a sign of maturity and a sign of being on the right path, when you can look back and say, okay, these are my lessons, and this is how I'm going to give to the world, based on what's happened to me and what I know.
Yeah, exactly. So in that process, even is very uncomfortable. I found myself having the most self-growth and healing
Mm-hmm.
during the dark days of dealing with the physical challenges, and then the grief.
Mm.
And this is also something that I lean into because of this spiritual piece, the spiritual journey. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have a purpose. I realize, even having lost a child, there's a lesson and there's a gift behind it,
Yes.
if I chose to see it that way. And that
Yes.
really changed my perspective, towards life, towards
Yes.
her death, completely towards my grief.
Yeah. How
That's
we how we choose to believe and receive the things that happen to us. Because a lot of people I know that I've dealt with in 20 years of my practice and before, that like a divorce or death, they are so angry. And
yeah.
this is a terrible thing that's happened to me. How dare this happen to me? And they hang on to that. And all it does is make their health worse.
Yeah. And I went through that too. I
Mm-hmm.
went through that. I'm just a normal human being. I have
Yeah.
all my emotions. So I
Yeah.
did go through that. It took me years to get to a place where I'm completely accepting
Yeah.
and I'm in peace with it. But in that process, like I said, it's not pretty. It's not
Yeah.
there were dark nights where I was angry,
Mm-hmm.
I was frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
I was guilty. because I felt like as a mom, I couldn't, help her more,
Yeah.
all those things. I
Yeah.
went through all of that. But I'm glad that I'm now past that. And as I look back, everything is good. I
Yeah.
was able to look at it and say that this is good. This is a good life. I've
Yeah.
learned my lessons, and I know that she's always there with me. And I
Yeah.
sometimes still get in touch with her, do my
Yeah.
meditation.
Aw.
If I'm just calm enough, quiet
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
I get to sense her energy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm so glad that you made it through it in a healthy way, because some people's mindset is that, God or the universe or whatever hates them and has done a terrible thing to them, and they spend the rest of their life angry,
Yeah.
and being unhappy when they have so much more to do and have purpose for being here besides just being upset and angry to others. Well, that's an amazing journey, and I appreciate you, sharing those deep, dark times with everybody here, because a lot of people have dealt with something similar. So, what did you do to get yourself healthy again now that you've gotten past all that and you see that, besides changing your food, what was the next steps? What did you do next?
I think for me, the biggest healing that I got from is through the mindset change. I just, in that process, I realized, hey, I do have choice,
Yeah.
regardless of circumstances.
Yeah.
It is that realization that made me feel powerful. I was taking my power back, because before I was
Yes.
like, oh, I was the victim,
Mm,
how unfair that I have lost my daughter. And I was a very health conscious person,
mm-hmm.
and why she was the one who, was diagnosed with such a big disease, all
Mm,
those kind of things. But then once I realized, hey, even in that situation, I have a choice to decide which way to go.
yeah.
I can decide, like I said, stay in the victimhood,
Mm-hmm.
or I can take that power back and look at things differently. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did. So I was already eating healthy and having a very healthy lifestyle. But then, it doesn't matter how healthy I ate, they just didn't get me anywhere
Yeah.
until I started changing my mindset. And that's the part that I think really propelled my healing. And since then, I was willing to start looking at emotions in me.
Mm,
All those years of, just being stuck in grief and
mm,
what it has done to my body,
yeah.
how it affected me and even my family, or my son, who was born 1 year after our daughter died.
Aw.
So all those things really just got me, a lot of reflections.
Mm-hmm.
In When I was in that process, I couldn't see it
Yeah.
clearly. But then
Yeah.
after a while, yeah, and I look back and I really can see it clearly. And that's when I started thinking about, I've learned so much over the years. And I was actually coaching the people around me as well, my
Mm,
family, best friends. They all
yeah.
go through,
You're sharing.
we're all about the same age,
Yeah.
going through a very fun midlife stage,
Yeah. Yeah.
where we just deal with a lot of hormonal turmoil. And
Mm,
so I realized that, hey, I was doing the coaching already, and why not just went back to school and get certified for it. And that's why I decided to go to the Institute for Integrated Nutrition, and I
nice.
got a health coaching certification there.
Good for
And since
you.
yeah, and then also I was very, you know, a lot of energy modalities has been instrumental in my healing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I was just naturally drawn to energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
We started doing that even when our daughter was still alive with us. I
Mm,
took her to energy healer. Um, and because of my background too, Chinese culture, Chinese medicine, it's
mm-hmm.
all about energy. And
Yes.
so I use that quite a bit in my own healing. And then also later, I got certified as a bioenergetic health coach as well. And
That's
I'm
amazing.
applying that to my own health coaching practice
Well, that's
as well.
beautiful. So I noticed in the notes that you sent me, you said you something about germ theory versus terrain theory? What is that all about?
Oh, okay. So that's referring to how I look at the human body,
Okay.
because a lot of times people, especially in the conventional medicine perspective, people or the doctors, they will let you know that, oh, you're diabetic because your pancreas is not, handling the blood sugar
Mm,
regulation very well, and they kind of just isolated the problem in that particular organ.
mm,
Actually, human body, every part of our body is connected.
right.
So if we look at the if we look at the body as a whole and treat the person, you will know that every single diagnosis or disease out there is a multi-system issue.
Yeah.
So instead of just focusing on, managing the symptoms or treating the particular symptoms, if we look at the person as a whole, then we realize it's actually the environment, our
Mm,
internal environment, that is out of balance, and
mm,
that gives us, the symptoms or whatever diagnosis they are.
hmm.
And the reason I said that, because we were all born and equipped with healing ability.
Yes, absolutely.
Imagine if you get a cut, like
Hmm.
here's a
Hmm.
burn mark right here.
Hmm.
At the beginning, you will go through that swollen, red, even painful stage. That's
Hmm.
inflammation. But then the reason it's inflamed, because this is the body's healing mechanism. It attracts the white blood cells to
Right.
this area. It attracts the red blood cells, the oxygen circulating to this area, so that it can start repairing and heal.
Hmm.
So the same idea too, with whatever chronic diseases people are struggling with, there is a root cause there. And then
Right.
there's also a stage when the body is in inflammatory stage. That's when the body try to heal. But often what happens is that people will go to a doctor and they say, oh, I don't feel comfortable, I'm dealing with this symptom. And the doctor will prescribe a drug
Hmm.
to suppress the symptoms.
Hmm.
By
Hmm.
that, it kind of interrupt the healing process.
Right. They want to
Because,
focus on the symptoms and not the root cause of the
yeah,
problem.
because people don't like to feel uncomfortable.
Mm,
Right?
yeah. And, getting to the root, no matter if it's emotional or physical, it's not fun. It's not
It's
fun.
not. So healing can be very messy and
Hmm.
sometimes scary
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but most people, because they don't know how our body is actually working,
Hmm.
you know, when it comes to an imbalanced state.
Hmm.
So they just naturally, I just want my pain, I just want my, headache go away
Yeah.
immediately. So they're
Yeah.
not looking at the whole picture. And because of that, that internal terrain has been constantly imbalanced. It's still imbalanced, even you make the symptoms go away.
Hmm.
But that kind of lead to a result that eventually the problem just get deeper and deeper, because you fix the symptoms,
Hmm.
but the other symptoms keep coming up because the roots has never been fixed.
Right. Exactly. Like having a headache. Like
Yeah,
you take ibuprofen and it goes away. You're like, oh, okay. But then you get
yeah,
another headache the next day. So it's like, what is the causing the actual headache?
yeah.
It's like
And
people
also,
just
I think
want
the
a
most
quick fix.
the yes, and then the most obvious case that I can give to our audience or your is that, for example, if you have a cold and you're running a fever, like my son has been feverish the last couple of days.
I've got an oil for that. I've got a Young Living oil for that, girl.
Yes, I was using oil as well.
Okay.
So a conventional way of treating the fever would be, oh, because the kids feel so miserable already, right?
Mhm.
And as a mom, we just want them to feel better,
Yeah.
as soon as possible. So most people would just give Tylenol or
Hmm.
Advil, whatever, to make the
Oh,
fever.
Tylenol so
Right.
dangerous. Hmm.
Yeah. But then by doing that, you interrupt again the body's healing process, because the reason the body raised the body temperature is to kill that invader, whatever is there, using the heat,
So there's certain bacterias or viruses
the
that are
viruses.
uncomfortable when your body temperature is higher. Okay. Plus,
Exactly,
it's also
exactly.
a signal because it's a signal of what level of infection or virus that you have. And if you mask that, you don't know how sick you are.
Yeah, exactly. And then once you the Tylenol go in,
Mhm.
now, like I said, that process has been interrupted. So
Mhm.
originally, if you don't take any drug and just let it run the course, eventually the body will get into the um, deflammatory stage. That's when the body started making all the antibodies. Oh, this particular box, I'm gonna make a copy of it. So next time when it come back,
Mhm.
then I've already have the memory. I know how to deal with it.
Got the
But
tools. Yeah.
because of all the healing process being interrupted,
Mhm.
the kids never build that immunity toward this particular bug. So when
Mhm.
next time when this bug showed up again,
Mhm.
then he has to start over again,
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because just
And
like
that's
that,
kind of same thing.
the new virus that's been around, that new
Yeah,
virus. Well, a lot of people, unfortunately, their bodies reacted differently. But for the average person, it was like any
right.
other new bug you might come in contact with. The body attacks it and figures it
Yeah.
out and creates antibodies so that the next time around, each time you have it, you have less and less symptoms and problems with it.
So that's a great point. That bring me back to the terrain and germ theory again. We
Okay.
talked about the terrain, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
environment has to be right. Now the terrain.
Sorry. We'll just work through it.
So that's a great point. That kind of bring me back to what you mentioned. What's the difference between the germ theory and the terrain theory? I just explained everything pretty much about the terrain theory. Basically, it's the environment, internal environment. If our internal environment is not right, then whatever is out there try to get into our body don't have the right environment
Mm-hmm.
or the right resource to deal with it
Mm-hmm.
or right condition to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the germ theory means that, a lot of people, that's pretty much probably the mainstream view. When there's a virus going on,
Mm-hmm.
they think it's because this virus is too powerful, it's new, we don't have antibody, all of that may be all true. At the same time, it is because the body is not at the right state
Mm.
to
It
handle
doesn't
that.
recognize it. It doesn't recognize it doesn't have
Doesn't
the
recognize
proper
it.
antibodies
Yeah.
to attack it. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't recognize it, but if you are taking care of yourself
Mm-hmm.
properly,
Mm-hmm.
that means your immune system is in good fighting condition.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the virus come in,
Mm-hmm.
there's many steps for the body to respond to it.
Right.
The first, what we call the innate immunity, that means when you breathe in or when you get touched with it, whatever that way that the virus get into you, there you have all the memory in your nasal passage and then eventually move on to here. By the time it gets to your immune system, actually, well, by the time it make you sick, for example,
Mm.
or give you the cough, give you the fever, there's quite a bit of, a series of events
Mm.
happening in the immune
Mm-hmm.
system. So that's why the terrains theory make more sense and it's very important because if you are taking good care of yourself, those mechanism, those series of events will happen
Mm-hmm.
to help you fight that virus.
Mm-hmm.
But if, say, for example, you don't eat well, you don't exercise, you just, always, are pessimistic, your body naturally just not, it's depressed a lot of
Mm.
time. Immune
Mm-hmm.
system is depressed.
It's like you have
And so,
low energy, low negative thoughts. You're not taking good care of yourself. So you
yeah,
put yourself in a vulnerable position to be more inclined to get sicker than what
yes.
someone else would do if they were taking better care of themselves.
So yes, correct. Very good points. The best example I can give is just imagine a fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have fish tank at home, when the water get murky and all the dirty, what would you do?
Well, you clean it out, right?
Yeah, you scrub all those stones, maybe brush those fake grass, and then you clean the tank, right? You
Right.
replace it with clean water. That's the sign that that's the terrain,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But in the human body, for some reason, most people don't think it that way. They
Mm.
think that when the inside when our water, when pretending we are the fish tank, when the water is dirty in our body,
Mhm.
instead of replacing it, we kind of vaccinate the fish
Mm.
or
Yeah.
drug the fish, right? We want
Yeah.
a drug, we want a vaccine to
Mhm.
protect us.
That quick,
Meanwhile,
easy
the fish,
fix.
yeah, meanwhile, the fish is kind of swimming in the murky, dirty water.
Still, yeah. Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
total sense. Wow, that's
yeah,
fantastic. That's amazing. So you were saying that everything kind of starts in the gut. And I've heard many gurus and doctors tell me all the time that your immune system starts in the gut. And so it's hard to fight off any kind of bacterial or fungus or viral infection that you might have if the gut is unhealthy. And I know a lot of people now too are getting parasites, which seems to be another big thing. So they
absolutely.
live in the gut and the tissue and the brain. If you don't take care of it, it goes everywhere. So, you also said, that the real boss of the human body is the gut and the brain. So tell us what that means.
Okay. Yes. Um, I learned that just, a couple years ago too. It's fascinating. So, people always say, "Hey, I got this gut feeling. I got this gut feeling."
Right.
Turn out it's the truth. It's not just we're saying it. There's a reason behind it. The study has shown in the past 10, 20 years, as they found out more about our gut and the microbe that live in our gut, they realized that the gut is actually, they call it second brain.
Mm,
But as the research get deeper and deeper, they realize the communication between our brain and the gut, actually 90% comes from the gut to the brain, and
mm.
only 10% coming down from the brain to the gut.
Well, I'll be
And
darned.
so now there's scientists, they think, hey, so the gut is the first brain, it's not the
Mm.
second brain, actually, because
Wow.
whatever we're making our brain, whatever neurotransmitter, neuropeptides that we're making in the brain, we are also making those in our gut. So
Mm.
for example, the two feel-good hormones, serotonin and dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the serotonin is made in our gut, and
Oh,
75% of dopamine is also made in our gut. So
that's why
serotonin
that's why chocolate
is
makes you
the
happy.
precursor of melatonin. So if you have gut issue, you most likely, can be depressed, because that's what they
Mm.
found with all the depressed people. They're lacking serotonin. But you also, even if you are not depressed, you probably have sleep disorders, because, like I said, serotonin is a precursor of our sleep hormone,
Mm.
melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Dopamine is the thing that make us feel happy all the time. Sometimes people, that's the hormone. When you eat sugar, it will give your brain that feeling of, oh, this, I feel good.
Yes. Candy.
Yeah.
Dessert.
And they're actually, most of them are made in our gut.
Mm.
So now with the new research, they found out that if you have a gut issue, and because 80% of our immune cells live in our guts, eventually you will have what they call the leaky gut. Leaky gut is, there's a kind of a hole. I mean, there are tiny holes for the villi on our gut lining to absorb nutrients
Mm-hmm.
after all the food through the digestive process. But if that hole is bigger than it's supposed to be, that means all those undigested food would get past the holes and get
Mm.
into the other side of the gut lining. And who live in the other side of the gut lining? Our immune system, like
Mm.
80% of them. And that's when the immune system will mount attack against those foods. And that's the reason why people have food allergy, food intolerance, and eventually causing all the inflammation. Remember, I mentioned you're muted. You're
Okay.
muted.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to be doing a lot of
Yeah.
editing. Okay, so you were talking about
I don't
leaky
know
gut
where we.
and the brain, hmm and the big holes and letting everything in.
Okay. 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 So
The
what should
leaky
I?
gut,
So
and
you
no,
you
there's
said that
fine.
you
So the big pores and everything gets in.
Yes, yes. So when the gut lining has a bigger hole than it's supposed to be, all the undigested food will get through it.
Mm.
And guess who live on the other side of that gut lining?
Who?
It's our immune cells, 80%
Oh,
of. And then so they sense like, oh, this piece of thing, could be a piece of undigested chicken or undigested, I don't know, spinach.
Yeah.
They are supposed to be on certain size for the immune system to recognize them and
Mm,
let them pass. But if they're bigger, then the immune system say, hey, I don't recognize you. This is something, the red flags raised, and then they started mounting the attack on
mm,
those particles. And
mhm.
that's creating the inflammatory condition.
Oh,
That's
okay.
and that's what causes the food allergy, food intolerance. And eventually, if this hole on the gut lining is not repaired, whatever you eat every single day, 3 times, 5 times a day, they keep going through that gut lining, and the immune system is constantly on alert to
Mm,
keep mounting the attack.
wow.
And also, not just that, it's with the circulation, the inflammatory condition eventually will go up to your brain.
Oh,
So that's why, yeah, I don't know if you heard about that. When we said that when someone has leaky gut,
mm,
eventually will lead to leaky brain.
mm. Yeah, I hadn't heard that one. That's new.
It's basically just mean the inflammation in the brain, and
Okay.
that could cause you, brain fog, or
Mm.
depression again, or any Parkinson's disease, any mental health issues,
Oh my
all
gosh.
started with leaky gut.
Wow, really? So a lot of, because I deal with a lot of people in my practice, and we're going to probably run out of time. And so what we'll have to do is, because this thing kept cutting off, we'll just start another one and keep going. But a lot of people in my practice are suffering with mental health issues. I've never seen so many mental health issues in my life as I have since I started practicing law, and um, and they're on medications, and all their kids are ADHD and depressed and all this stuff.
Right.
And it's mind boggling, because when I was a kid, I don't remember anybody talking about being depressed. I remember looking back, my mom suffers from some depression, but she had poor habit, extremely poor health, eating habits. Um, but so, I mean, now I can kind of correlate those two things. But this is really interesting to know, because I run into people constantly who are unhappy and depressed. And I never thought about it being totally, possibly totally related to their diet. I think
Yeah.
I always knew
Well,
maybe portion, but not all of it.
what diet is only one factor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about what causes leaky gut.
Mm,
That could be many things, but the modern lifestyle alone just creates a lot of those factors that will push us towards leaky gut. For example, the food system pretty much is a poisoning system.
mm-hmm.
It's poisoning the majority of the people in this country.
Yeah,
I
I've
think other
noticed.
countries are way better.
I've been learning about that too. All that processed
That's
food
one.
is terrible.
That's one. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second one is, for example, if kids who are receiving antibiotic when they're very young,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of mess up their microbiome right there.
Yeah, most kids are. They have ear infections. They're 6 months
Yeah.
old and they're
Or
screaming. And
repeated anti,
yeah,
repeated ear infection.
yeah,
Or if this person is very stressed,
mm,
and who doesn't have stress these days, including me,
yeah. And
right?
kids come home too every day. I'm so stressed out from school. And you're like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes the parents contributed to it too, because
Mm,
there's so
yeah.
many activities, extracurricular activities that the parent
Mm,
needs to take them to, right?
mm.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So if you understand how those microbiome in our body really can affect, what we think, what we eat, and how we feel, then you will know it's very important now. You take care of all the things they're supposed to be doing to help them thrive.
Mm-hmm.
For example, eat healthy food, you maintain a healthy lifestyle, you try to manage your stress properly, you handle your emotion, you release them as you as they come along.
Mm-hmm.
And so those will all help, feed the bug in
Mm,
the right ways, and that would in turn help our body thrive,
mm,
because otherwise we are 90% more microbe than
mm,
human cells.
mm.
Can you
Wow.
believe that?
No,
Yeah,
that's
100%.
mind boggling.
90% of our DNAs belong to those microbes in our guts.
Wow.
Only 10% is belong to our as human.
Oh my goodness. That's
So
just crazy. It's so fascinating, the way we're
it
made. I mean,
is.
it's obvious this is not an accident. You know what I'm saying?
No, we're part of the nature,
Yeah.
and our bodies just exactly expressed that way. So
Yeah.
whatever bug that we can find outside, we can find those bugs in our body,
Wow. That's
and we
amazing.
want them to be there for us.
Now, you also mentioned something about a fecal transplant. Yee.
Yes, yes.
That sounds so fun.
So yeah, that's again related to the microbiome because
Okay.
a lot of people, their gut is so messed up that
Mm.
there's no way that they can recover their rainforest, in a sense.
Hmm.
For example, if people who are regularly antibiotic, one course of antibiotic can wipe out your entire rainforest for 2 years, 3 years. Okay, and if people are constantly on it, there's no way the gut can be restored.
Yeah.
And so we've seen that in a lot of immunocompromised people already, and especially those with cancer treatment that kind of
Mm.
adds another layer
Yeah.
problem to it.
Yeah.
And so because of that, these people, for example, the cancer patients or the immunosuppressed people, when they are sick and in the hospital, they tend to get a very severe infection that most antibiotics cannot, handle.
Mm.
The, the antibiotics, they're basic, those bugs are very, what they call the antibiotic.
Resistant, antibiotic resistant.
So because of that, now there's a new treatment. It's called fecal transplant. That's where fecal transplant started actually,
Wow.
because those people, if they are not being able to treat it by any antibiotic, they can just it's very fatal. And it's
Mm.
called this particular bug called C. diff. C. diff is a very invasive bacteria. And
Mm.
once people are contracted with it, most of them happen in the hospital because of the cross contamination.
Oh my
You can
gosh.
imagine those people are already in the having a weakened immune system, and so because of that, they started, the idea of implanting the healthy bacteria into the people who have the weakened immune system.
Wow. And I
And
know
that's
I,
called
I did some research
transplant.
a few years back or whatever because
Yeah.
they look for a certain type of person that they actually have donors. They have a donor, they're donor
Yes.
companies, and that you can actually, if you sign up, you have to this long, lengthy questionnaire where they are looking for certain types of people who have really great poop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's poop therapy, basically.
Yeah,
But
that's funny.
since the onset of the fecal transplant, now it's been studied in many clinical settings. It's been applied not just onto those people with a weakened immune system, but also now applying it to people with depression,
Wow. Mm.
diabetes, autoimmune diseases, because those problems
Start in the
are
gut.
traced back to the guts.
Wow.
And
Wow. Isn't that crazy? That is
even
just
for
nuts.
people, even for people who are, extremely overweight, they used to do a bypass
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
surgery
Yeah.
to remove part of their stomach.
Mm.
Now they can do a fecal transplant just to, take those
Yeah.
poop from a very skinny, healthy people.
Yeah.
Then the overweight people has a chance to slim down. Isn't
That's
that amazing?
crazy, and I think a lot of it starts because you're eating sugar when you're 1 years old. You get out, the
Yeah.
milk is bad. People are on cow's milk and that's bad for you. And then they're putting the kids on orange juice and apple juice and all this stuff full of nothing,
Yeah.
anything healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we start our kids off these days pretty young on sweets. You start
Yes.
off on sweets and
Yeah.
automatically, yay, those the yeast and stuff in your stomach are going
Yeah.
woohoo party
Yeah.
time,
And
and
the,
it
the
never
yeast,
stops.
the yeast are not naturally bad. I mean, they were there. They're part of the ecosystem. It
Mhm.
is when the good guys, the good bacteria died off, and
Yeah,
that kind of gave rise to the bad bacteria,
yeah,
including then the yeast.
yeah.
Because yeast is a opportunistic, is it
Hmm.
the word?
Mhm,
opportunistic
mhm.
organism. It's
Yeah.
not that they're naturally innate bad. They're
Mhm.
not.
Well, I
Because
mean,
even yeah,
if someone was to put a big old chocolate cake in front of me, I would think, "Dang, all right, that looks pretty tasty."
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
be
I know.
tempted to go for it, I'm about
Yeah,
like some yeast. Give me that sugar. Oh, no,
yeah.
that's bad.
But I think because in this country, the issue is way bigger because of the system. The food system is
Mhm.
set up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really
Yeah.
poor here. I mean, one of the richest countries in the world, if not the richest, and we
Be
have
the poorest.
the worst diets of anybody. I mean, like I was when I was doing the Young Living and doing the research on the Ningxia red juice and the wolfberry and everything, and it comes from that blue zone Ningxia province in China, where people live to be 150 years old. And you research what they eat, and it's so basic and
Very rural. Yeah, yeah,
so clean, so basic. They don't have a 7-Eleven and a grocery store on every corner where they can go down and get candy and soda pop
yeah,
and all day long. They're eating
yeah,
quality food. They may be in a poor country, a poor area, but they're
yeah.
living longer than anybody else because they're not
Yeah,
consuming all
yeah,
this really trashy food 24 hours a day. And I see people, they're always got something. They got a soda pop in a hand and a candy bar and a bag of chips. And then they go have lunch and they have another 2 or 3 calories. And then, they go have dinner and they have another 2 or 3 thousand calories, and it's rice and French fries. And
yeah.
I mean, it's all terrible,
It's
terrible.
sad. And that's why we always say that this is a country, with people with the population of overfat,
Mm-hmm.
but the
Obese.
most
Yeah. I think we're England,
malnourished. The most overfat, but the
least nourished.
least nourished or
Yeah.
malnourished.
Yeah. When I was in England, I lived there for a year, and the obesity rate had gone up so high that they found that women were getting more depressed when they're going shopping because
Mm.
the sizes, right? So now they weren't in a size 4 or 5, 8, whatever. Now they're in 20 and 30. So the government, instead of trying to get people healthier, instead the government said, okay, well, we're going to shift the sizes. So whatever was a
Oh,
4, whatever was a 6 is now a 4, or something like this, something nuts like this. And I've thought, that's not
wow.
helping people. That's not
Oh,
helping people.
yeah,
That's just tricking. Like, if I'm a size 30 and then suddenly the government changes it, oh, look, I'm a 20, it's like messing with people's minds. But the still, I mean, like, England and the United States, I believe, have the highest rate of obesity. And I look back
yeah,
at photographs and things that I had when I was a kid, and you rarely ever saw someone who was obese. If it
yeah.
was an unusual situation, and you couldn't help but kind of look like, wow,
Yeah.
that person is very
That's
large.
Yeah,
But now
that's
it's
the
everywhere.
same. That's how I grew up too. I never knew anybody who
Hmm.
was overweight, not even
Hmm.
obese, overweight,
Yeah.
or have allergy issue or asthma. Just very rare.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up eating, well, mostly home raised, homegrown food,
Ooh, that's
but
good.
also, with lard, for example, or with food cooking exclusively in lard, and we didn't have any issue at all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
so,
lard's supposed to be very healthy. You're talking about pig fat, right? Pig fat,
yeah, pig
lard.
fat,
Yeah,
pig fat.
lard is very
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
per,
then it's been kind of
yeah.
villainized over
Mm-hmm.
the years, especially
Mm-hmm.
here.
Because it's
I
from
mean,
pigs, and they think high cholesterol, whatever. But that's another
yeah,
mal, whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
misperception.
yeah, misperception, because we have to have cholesterol, and so a lot of people who have
Yep,
dementia now is because they
exactly.
went on those low fat diets with no cholesterol, or got
Mm-hmm.
on low or
Yeah.
cholesterol lowering medications.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm glad
insane.
that you mentioned that,
Yeah.
cholesterol, because a lot of people with cholesterol issue, I mean, see this cut or this burn here,
Mm-hmm.
when they started making that scab,
Mm-hmm.
what made that scab?
Mm.
It's
So
the
you have to have
LDL. It's the LDL
ah.
cholesterol. So LDL cholesterol is the raw material for repair, for RT
Mm.
repair.
For
So
the whole
those
people.
people, yes, whole body.
Okay. Okay.
So when those people are put on statin, which is the cholesterol
Yep.
lowering
Yep.
meds, their body cannot produce LDL at all. So if there's any tear or cut or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
there's injury there, the body cannot repair by itself. And eventually it's a huge problem down the road
Yeah.
because those people now have all those study has shown that those people on statin drug for a certain period of time all have a very weakened muscles, and they all have muscular pain because
Uh,
of all the damage, from just everyday wear and tear. They
mhm.
cannot repair
Well,
themselves.
I don't want to be mean, but you know, why would you want to get to the root of the problem when it brings you business?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you know, if you tell people like, "Oh yeah, it's a little high, go on this pill." Well, guess what? Now you're going to be seeing them a lot more
Yeah.
because there's the side effects.
And they also, do you know that they also bring down the cholesterol standard? The
Mm.
when they say the normal range,
Mhm.
it used to be 300.
Mhm.
And then they
Hmm.
all with all the lobby from the pharmaceuticals, they bring it down to
Well,
250,
you know why? Because the
then now to
pharmaceutical
200.
companies weren't making enough money because nobody was reaching the 300, so they had to lower it to get you to use their
Yeah,
medication. I mean,
exactly.
that's just evil. I'm sorry.
I
I'll
know,
say
I
it. That's
know.
evil. That's
No, you're
evil.
right. Don't be sorry.
Yeah, it's evil. That's just
Exactly.
evil to say, you know what? I want to harm more people so I make more money. That just infuriates me. That's evil. That's not
Exactly.
okay.
It's
But
it's unfortunately
so
that's
yeah,
the reality there.
you were talking about the high cholesterol, but then also you were talking about heartburn and GERD.
Yeah, so we were talking about fixing the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the high cholesterol is actually mostly caused by sugar and the refined carb overconsumption, and that caused the blood to be very corrosive. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why the body's natural compensatory mechanism is I want to repair that, the wall of your
Mm-hmm.
blood vessel
Mm-hmm.
because it's also inflamed.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the LDL goes there. And
Mm-hmm.
when they open people with the heart surgery and they saw, oh, the blood vessel was filled with all the LDL, and they assume that LDL is the villain. But
Uh,
LDL is actually the firefighter
hmm.
in this case. So the same with the GERD or heartburn.
Okay.
Heartburn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Instead of thinking like in a conventional way that heartburn caused by too much acid is actually too little acid. Because
Right.
Yeah, because the body has this mechanism. There's the two valves,
Mm-hmm.
one on top of the stomach and the other one at the bottom of it. And there's a very tight regulation in terms of pH in the
Mm-hmm.
digestive system.
Mm-hmm.
So the body naturally want the stomach to be acidic. It's a
Mm-hmm.
battery
Well, it has
acid.
to be acid to break down
Has
whatever you're
to break
eating.
down to break down the food and then
Right.
also to kill whatever the pathogens that come in.
Yeah.
But those people, because they cannot produce enough acid, the stomach is not acidic enough, the food cannot go down
Mm-hmm.
properly because the valve at the bottom of it
Mm-hmm.
didn't sense the proper pH there. And so it wouldn't open up to let the food pass. And then now the food doesn't have anywhere to go but pushing up.
But trying to get back out the other way.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So the
And so, I think that's when you make sure you have some apple cider vinegar on hand and put a little in your
yeah.
water or some
And
lemon
that's
juice or
one way.
something.
And that's good. And it
Yeah.
helps. It's still not fixing the root cause.
Right. Of course. But it
See?
gets you through the
It's,
moment. Yeah.
yeah,
But
it
it's
would be
better than
very
those,
helpful.
better than Tums and whatever else
Yes.
people
For
take
those,
or
yes. Yeah.
what is a
Yeah.
peptide or what is that other pill that people take over the counter? Starts with a P. It was big.
I don't know. I'm
I
not
forget what it's
familiar
called, but I
with
think it was
but all kinds of
also
antacid
bad.
or Prilosec, there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
those.
P.
Yeah.
Prilosec.
So
That's
the
probably
root
it.
cause would be what? What causes you to not producing enough stomach acid? In most cases, is
Hmm.
stress. For
Oh,
most people.
really?
Yeah, because when you're stressed, you get into the fight or flight, and the body think you either want to fight that tiger or you want to flee for life.
Yeah.
Digestion is not important, so it shut down the stomach acid production.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
So
it
relax, meditate, let it
yeah,
go. Let it
yeah.
go. Like the song.
So yeah, stress is the number one killer, and we can
Oh,
attribute stress to so many problems.
wow.
Yet the stress is our everyday life right now.
Yeah. And, if you think back to when, we lived in the forest or the jungle or the desert or wherever our peoples come from, you went through your day and you didn't get stressed unless there was a tiger or, snake or
Yeah,
something at you, and you dealt with it in the moment. And then your body could then release that and
yeah,
get back to a normal state. But people are like, oh my God, I gotta get up. I gotta get the kids going. I gotta get to work. I got don't know my
yeah.
boss get mad, and I gotta pick the kids up, and then I gotta get them to this activity and that activity. And I gotta fix the dinner and da 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 da. And then they fall in the bed at 11 o'clock and they can't go to sleep and they feel terrible and they barely get a couple hours sleep and they start it over again. And they do this for years, years, and their body is just out of whack, completely out of
You
whack.
know, the study shows that, it's just regular people,
Mm-hmm.
like everyday average people would have 50 stress response every day,
Wow.
50 stress response. And
Wow.
then for if this is a single mom with 3 kids working 2 jobs, that's
Mm.
like a 200,
Yeah, I
200 times.
believe it. Oh my God. Yes, I believe that because
So,
it's like being in a snake pit, man. You're just dodging. You're
yeah,
dodging tragedy. Every turn you turn around, it's like, oh, something. Oh, it's gonna get me. Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
You-
it's
Well, and
I,
my clients do that too because they're going through a divorce, and it's kind of bad because their spouse is attacking them. Now the kids are attacking them. The whole family's mad at them because they're getting a
yeah,
divorce. And I'm sending them papers, and the other attorney's sending them papers, and they feel like that they're under attack, and their cortisone levels and their depression and anxiety and stuff does skyrocket
yeah,
during the
yeah,
divorce process.
yeah. Of course, I can imagine that.
Yeah. And they're
You
already dealing with some negative, a lot of them are already dealing with, some covert narcissist or some sociopath or an alcoholic or, either themselves or their partner or whatever. And the things that I see is just horrendous. It's horrendous what these people
Modern
are going
life
through.
is tough.
Yeah. And yeah, I think to myself, gosh, if we could just go back in time when we put less emphasis on material things and trying to impress everybody around us and focus back, because like my grandma grew up, they lived on a farm and they ran and played and they were barefooted, they were grounding and they were drinking fresh cow's milk and fresh eggs they just picked 2 seconds ago and grandma's butter. And
Yeah.
it's like they were so much healthier and
We all can
happier.
benefit from that kind of lifestyle, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I grew up. That's how
Yeah.
I grew up.
Yeah.
But I'm far away from that
Mhm.
little kid.
I know,
Self
even when I
heal.
was a kid, my grandma still tried to instill those things in me. She still canned, and did a lot of stuff. They had well water um, but everybody falls
Yeah.
into whatever the norm is.
Yeah.
So,
And also the device, now the device or the convenience in
hmm
modern life actually just creating even more toxins
hmm yeah,
or
yeah.
pollutions in our
It's
life.
just all out of balance. The earth and people are out of balance. They're out of balance in general and out of
Yeah,
balance with each other.
yeah, we're
Um,
disconnected.
Yeah. And so, like this morning, the first thing I got up since the weather was nice is I went outside and took my
It's
socks off and
grounding.
put my
Yes,
feet in the
good for
ground and
you.
pet my cat
Yes.
because there's a new study now that says that, now this is crazy, that cats purr, and I want to make sure I get this right, at, I think it was 730 hertz, 732 hertz.
Oh,
And
that's
that
very high.
cat purring is really good for people with medical problems, especially cancer, because there's something about that frequency that helps
Yes.
people heal faster. And,
Oh,
people
yeah.
always make fun of
Right.
cats, but it's supposedly the purr.
Yeah.
So when a cat is
Yeah.
happy and it's laying on your lap, it also gives you like a happy feeling and a relaxing feeling. But there's something about the 732 hertz that the cat purrs at that helps
That's
heal.
interesting.
Isn't that
Yeah.
neat? And it all goes back to frequency because we're all made of frequency, right? It's all energy, like you were saying
Exactly.
before.
Exactly.
And so you were talking about the missing energy, missing half of the healing equation, and you touched on that earlier, but I have this on here. So I just want to say, was there anything else you wanted to say about that or anything else?
Well, yeah, the reason I said that is a lot of time. Well, I myself was an example too. I was eating very healthy, leading a healthy lifestyle, very reduced toxin. I wouldn't say toxin free because it's impossible, but I
Mm-hmm.
was very focused. I'm very conscious about all the environmental toxins that come into my life and my body, but I was still struggling
Mm.
because if I, have lost a child and that
Yeah.
emotional part, that grief really just, engorged me for many
Yeah, of
years.
course.
that's emotion is energy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So our thought, our perception, our emotions, the words that we're thinking or talking to ourselves, those
Mhm.
are energies.
Yeah.
And if we don't pay attention to these, and you thought that, you can just eat healthy and just, you're gonna have a perfect life
Mhm.
thereafter, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. There's a chemical body and there's energetic body. The biochemical body is mostly from the food that we eat, or actually all the foods has energy to it. All different food has different vibrations. Raw
Mhm.
food has the highest vibration. And
Which one
food,
is broccoli?
raw food, raw foods, raw
Raw
food,
foods, raw. Okay.
raw foods has higher vibration because the life force
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
more vibrant there.
Mhm.
So food is also energy, but because we're so used to look at the nutrition from a biochemistry point of view, so I kind of attribute food as a biochemical part. And then also because all the blood tests, all the exam, all the tests, they all look at it from chemical perspective. But
Mhm.
I'm talking about the energy side is, particularly referring to the emotions, our
Mhm.
thoughts, our perceptions, even stress.
Mm.
Stress is a perception.
Yeah.
That's why, for example, the same event, it could be stressful to one, but not stressful to the other.
Yeah, it's
You
funny you
can,
say that because I've ran into parents back in the day when my daughter was littler, and they were like, "Oh my God, I didn't get up until 9 o'clock. I had to get up at 9 o'clock, and I had to do this
yeah,
and this and take my kids." And I'm thinking, "Girl, I've been up since 6. I've done 15,000 more times more stuff than you have." Listening to their story and thinking in my head, and I'm like, "Am I
yeah,
supposed to be stressed?" I'm
yeah.
thinking to myself, "Am I supposed to be stressed?" Because this person's just like, "Oh, I'm such a victim. I had to get up this morning." You're like, so their perception is, "Oh my God, I had to get up and I had to be up by
Personality, yeah,
9 and
yeah.
all this stuff." And I'm like, "My God." But yeah, it's a matter of how you look at it, because if you just think, "Yeah, this is my life. This is what I've chosen. This is okay with me, and this makes me happy and my family happy," and you get a better attitude about it. But if you go
It's-
around, feeling victimized and upset about every little
That's stress.
thing,
That's a big stress,
that's stressful just talking about it. So
Yeah, yeah.
now I know that when you're helping, I noticed that in our networking group, you've helped so many people. My gosh, they're just looking fantastic. They've lost weight. They look healthier. They're glowing. Their stomachs have shrunk significantly. You're using a program and you're coaching a meal. You were talking about a meal. It's like a meal replacement and some other things. And you don't have to give all your secrets away. But kind of just touch on, if someone was to come to you, what
Mhm.
can they expect? What would they expect from you if they came to you?
Great question. So when people come to me, usually I have this call to do a total review,
Hmm.
in terms of what their diet is like, what their lifestyle is,
Hmm.
and what their health history is. And then we decide to go which one that we want to address first. And most likely these days, a lot of people are really deficient in their nutrients or in
Mm.
their food. So we always kind of address the diet first.
Are you there? Hello. This dang thing. Are you there? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
So where did you hear me say last?
Um, Girl, I don't know. Let's just kind of start with that again. Um,
So
you're
what
talking
do people
about,
come to
okay,
me? What
so
do people can
so when they
expect?
come to you, what do they expect? What can they expect from you?
That's a great question. So when people come to me, I usually have a what I call discovery call, where I review their goals and challenges. What do they try to achieve in the program if they
Mhm.
are to work with me? And oftentimes I found that a diet is the first step because it's a foundation. We just need those foundational nutrition in the body for the body to function. So that's one. But in the past, I have to be honest with you, most people, when they came to me, they were already struggling. So
Mm,
they often have this challenge of cooking themselves because they either didn't know how to, or they didn't have the energy,
mm.
or they just simply didn't like cooking.
Yeah.
Okay, that become a challenge. And if they're already struggling with some kind of symptoms, it can be a challenge.
Hmm.
So since 2 years ago, I started incorporating this nutrition therapy into my program, and I found that it kind of just it kind of remove a lot of burden from the client's shoulder, so that they can now, their nutrition is covered. They can now focus on working other aspects
Oh,
where
that's
they
good.
need to improve on. So it could be the exercise, right? Or it could be managing their stress, or find a way to release their emotions.
Mm,
you know so now, because that nutrition therapy is so effective and powerful, it's 100% food,
mm,
organic, certified organic, and grown on regenerative health.
mm.
So it's very effective. The body just know what to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No problem at all. So that, I see the result very fast, and because of the people's, whatever they're struggling, stabilized pretty fast, and now they have more energy. They're happier, they're more motivated to do the
Mm.
work.
Yeah.
That's why I think that nutrition therapy really is instrumental in my whole coaching program. And yeah, it just
That's
takes away a
beautiful
lot of
because I
burden.
noticed that because we're stressed and we're running, people are well, looking for the convenience. They're running to the fast food or grabbing some SpaghettiOs or TV dinner or frozen something, and um, it's nothing but preservatives and chemicals in there. I mean, they have did some videos here lately, which I think are funny, where people are taking some of your local food chain hamburgers and sitting them outside and leaving them out there for days and weeks, and animals are not running off with them. They're not molding. There's so many preservatives and chemicals in the food that we buy. Even if we think it is healthy, it's really not. And learning to cook is difficult, and finding the time is difficult. Like for myself, I food prep on Sundays. I'll cook enough grilled chicken and vegetables and put them in containers and stuff for the
Oh,
entire
that's a
week.
good idea. Great
Yeah, for
idea.
my daughter and I to grab and go. Um, so when other people are having fun on a Sunday afternoon watching a ball game or doing something, I'm in the kitchen. But
Oh, good
um,
for you.
yeah, it's a change of mindset, because a lot of people,
Exactly.
like I said, a lot of people think, oh, well, Sundays lay around, do nothing, go to sports or go to church and lunch and whatever. And their mindset is, that I can't do something different. But once you
Mhm.
make that decision that you can. And I like the way that this is a
Exactly. I love the
pre-prepared.
way you say it. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Um,
So true.
so we're almost out of time. We've had so much fun, and I'm going to piece all this together. So I apologize to anybody who's viewing because we've had internet going on and off over here today. I don't know why, but how can people find you? So if they was like, "Oh my gosh, she's so amazing! I want help," because they're struggling, and most people are. They just don't want to admit it, or they're afraid it's going to be expensive or time consuming. Um, you know,
Yes.
um, how can they reach you?
Well, they can find me through my website, innatwisdomcoach.com, or they can email me,
Okay,
Peilin@innatwisdomcoach.com,
and I'll put all
or
those
call
inform.
me if they're local. Well, or they're, doesn't matter which part in this country, or
Yeah.
even Canada, they can reach me through my phone as well.
Okay. That's great. And I'll put everything in the description for everybody to be able to get a hold of you. Hello? Hello? Not again.